We acknowledge the Darug people of the Eora Nation as the traditional owners of the land we work on. We pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging.
Always was, always will be.
Hi everyone, welcome to our podcast Mindshetra Talks Lost in Translation. We are a mother and daughter duo, Indian Australians living in Sydney. We are using our personal experiences and insights to connect and relate with people with similar experiences.
We are using this podcast as our voice to unpack topics that are often lost in translation within our South Asian community. We are doing this podcast with the intention to break down the barriers in communication that may exist between parents and children, and we hope to offer some talking points to instigate these conversations. Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast Mindshetra Talks Lost in Translation. We are back with episode 4 of season 2 of the podcast, and we do have somebody on the podcast today. But
somebody very, very special.
Yes.
Look at her face. She doesn't want to admit that it is special, but we will introduce you to her. You might have seen her in season 1, and so if you if you have watched our season 1, you would already know who she is. But if you haven't, this is an opportunity for you to go and watch her.
Definitely.
And an episode of how she talks. But welcome, Reya. Welcome, Reya, onto the podcast. And what I would like to do, because I'm a little evil like that, I would like Riti to introduce who Reya is to audiences who don't have a clue on who Reya is and why is she here on the podcast today.
Certainly. Well, Reya, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're on the podcast today?
Hi, my name's Reya.
Is it really?
It is.
I am the second daughter of Rupa, and the the sister of Riti, but I'm the best person of my family, so that's probably why I'm here. I'm here to talk about female friendships.
That was a beautiful segue into the episode of this season, which is female friendships.
Female friendships, yeah.
So I guess mother of Riti and Reya.
Yes, you were going to say Rupa, isn't it? That becomes your grandmom in this party. Yeah.
Well, would you like to start with any observations you had on the weekend? What's the date today? Tuesday. Any anecdotes you would like to start with?
I was watching this movie on a very random movie. I know, have you ever had a day where you're just browsing through the channel and a movie pops up and you've already watched it but you don't remember what the movie is, so you just watch it again? And then I was watching this movie called Other Woman.
The Other Woman.
The Other Woman. It's a chick flick or whatever you call it, but the gist of the movie is it's a very cute, weird, cute movie, and that kind of made me think about female friendships. And the storyline of The Other Woman, if you haven't watched it, is there is this high-shot guy. He has a doting wife, and the wife finds out that he's actually having an affair, not with one person, but 2 people. And the wife actually, rather than confronting the husband first, befriends the partner who he cheated on, the lady who the guy cheated on with, and then all 3 of them together take revenge. Now, one of the most unlikely friendships, but though weird, it made me think of another movie I've watched in South Asian things. And if you have in South Asian cinema,
like a Indian film,
an Indian film, and it's called Magalir Mattum. It's a Tamil movie in which it's 3 heroines. It is based on the story of 9 to 5. 3 women in a workplace befriend each other, and then they try and overthrow a very misogynistic manager. And it is a comedy kind of a thing. And then one thought led to another, and I started thinking about female friendships and how it is so true about the female friendships, and so though weird, you know how our thought works, right? From one thing to another, it just jumps in. So then I was thinking about female friendships and all the female friendships I have and the impact it's had on my own identity
Yes.
and mental health.
Mm.
And so I thought what would be a great way to introduce that not only to our viewers but also listen from two people from this generation.
Yeah.
Though you're from the same generation, you both had different experiences
yeah.
on how friendship is.
Yeah.
I'm here to bring about a South Asian lens on how it was for me growing up and what were my influences.
Yeah.
You both are here to talk about your own experiences, and we are here to connect it with why is it important to have female friendships?
That is the question of the episode, isn't it? And what is the impact on your mental health, your identity, like what choosing the right friends means, why it's important to have friends, why it's important as a South Asian female or like a female separately to have friends, and like overall like the impact that has on your well-being. And then also like breaking this myth that women are women's worst enemy, which I feel like in a South Asian culture, we don't really talk about that.
Is it a myth or has it got some truth to that?
Oh.
We can kind of explore that as well, because I think generally when we talk about friendships, we only talk about friendships, outside in a family kind of a thing. But I think friendships are possible within familial relationships as well. You can be a friend with your, sister-in-law or your mother-in-law. That has been my experience. And she smiles.
Because she dropped the pencil.
Yeah, I dropped the pencil. Sorry, I'm really bad at paying attention.
No worries. I'm going to start again. So I think friendships are possible even in a familial relationship. And so I am here to add this voice of a person who was not born and brought up in Australia, where female friendships doesn't seem like a big deal. But
Wait, what do you mean?
Because it's quite normalized here, going out with your girlfriends on the weekend,
yes.
and everything is quite acceptable. But
Yeah.
when I was growing up, going out of the house to celebrate on yourself or solo traveling or anything like that, or even going out with a few girls is seen as a novelty thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a nice to have, not a must have.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
guess we can lead that into technically why Reya is here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to add why we asked you to be here?
I think I've had very different experiences in developing friendships with people from the same culture, with people from the same gender group, but also people whose personality is similar to mine, because I went to an all-girls school, and then all my extracurriculars were all girls as well. So it's kind of exploring if their culture plays a role, if your personality, which obviously plays a role, and how that all kind of forms one big cycle. Because if you don't find good friends, you're like, oh, why am I like this? Or is it because I'm interested in something that's not popular or cool? And then you kind of go into the spiral of, or do they not like me because of this? Okay, I'm going to change this, but they don't like me because of that, so I'm going to change this. And it just becomes one really gross cycle.
Yeah. And even having those extracurricular activities where it was like predominantly like all girls, still sort of like struggling to find friends within that. And then now, looking back on your experiences where you did struggle, but then now you feel like you're in a place where you have a solid friend group. I guess to start this discussion to somebody who didn't grow up in Australia and has a very different experience and understanding of what it's like to have female friendships. Did you have like many when you grew up? And like, do you still keep in touch with them?
I keep in touch with the handful of my primary school friends.
Oh, still?
2.
Yeah.
Actually, 1.
How many did you have, would you say?
How many friends did I have? I had, I would like to think I had quite a few friends because I was a popular person.
Oh, okay.
Popular in the not I don't know, popular, or I conceived or I perceived myself to be a popular person.
Do you mean popular like
everybody
well-liked?
knew me?
Oh,
Everybody in
okay.
the school knew me.
Mm.
I
Oh.
was
But how does that
representing
constitute
school
as being popular?
because
our understanding of popularity is quite different too.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was quite well known in the school. So let me talk about primary school and secondary school.
Mm.
When I went to primary school, I was a very shy kid. Nobody knew me. I
Yeah.
had no friends, and
Mm.
I didn't know how to make friends.
Yeah.
Though I would be part of guides, girl guides, and I liked dancing, but I was not part of. I wanted to be part of it,
Mm.
and then I had joined gymnastics. But I always felt like nobody wanted to be friends with me.
Why?
It's just a feeling like I was the odd one out. I was quite shy.
Yeah.
So
And that was like with anybody, not just like
with anybody. But I was happy on my own. Like I didn't feel sad or anything. I didn't feel lonely or anything. But I always knew that I didn't have friends.
Mm.
Like when did it become apparent that I was not part of a group is I would go to classes like, when you have in between classes, we have to move classes and sit on a desk and all those things.
Yeah.
Nobody will invite me to sit on their desk.
Oh.
So
really sad.
I was
That's
not
sad.
part of anything like that.
Sad.
So that was up until year 5, year 6.
Sure.
But we were living in a metropolitan city area at that time. Then I moved schools.
Mm.
Then we went to like a rural town.
Mm.
And there I was a person who had come from, so in India we have, based on the states you live, we have the medium of education or the language of education can vary as well. So you can have a predominantly British, most of the schools, all of the schools,
Yeah.
most of the schools are taught in English. The subjects are taught in English. So I came from what you call an English medium school, and we have different education systems. And I came from a central government based education system. So it was every subject, and in between classes also we were allowed only to talk and converse in English.
Mm.
I went to a rural town where people who came there, though it was an English medium school, they all came from government educated, government based schools, which means their medium of study was Tamil.
Yeah.
I was born and brought up in Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
So they came from Tamil. So how is it different? In between classes, they spoke in Tamil. Though my mother tongue is Tamil, the type of Tamil and the slang which came made me stand out because I very clearly made this thing of me being from a city, and they had brought up around the rural area, and then they knew a lot more of the geography and stuff like that. Luckily for me, I was very good at dance, and I got, there's a lot of, people say now, when I think back, that I was favored a lot by all the teachers and everything, and you have those class favorite. I never thought of myself as a favorite of anything, but I enjoyed all the privileges. I can clearly see it now. But at that time, as a young child who didn't have friends, the sudden change in trajectory of being super popular and being in front of the stage.
Kind of like
being,
thrust you into that environment.
Yes. I still had no friends. I had one close friend, but I didn't know that she was close at that moment. I don't know how to say this. Like, I didn't feel like she was a... I was
And is
always
she
on
the one that you're still in touch with now?
No, actually.
Oh.
I didn't realize that. The friend I've made for lifelong is a friend we connected on values and somebody who accepted me for who I am and did not make fun of me.
And that's the person that you're still in.
And that's the person across years, over geography. She doesn't even live in the same country.
Yeah.
She's been like the one person I have been actively in touch with.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean to say I have an animosity with any of the girls I went to primary school with.
Yeah.
I adore them, and I have learned so many things from so many places. But when you asked about who are you in touch with actively, I think, again, that comes to my inability to connect or align to a part of who I was, right? It has got nothing to do with the people who were there. They were as lovely as they were. It comes to me. I have to own up my part because I also haven't been in touch.
Yeah.
And this is something I kind of find in female friendships, that there are some friendships where you might be interacting with them on a everyday basis and you still don't feel close. But there are some female friends you may not even be talking to for ages and ages and ages. And I have a lot of them at the moment across the globe. And luckily for the past few years, I've developed some in Sydney itself. That you kind of then feel it doesn't matter if you don't talk for days and days, you know. And
Because some friendships, like, you can feel like you haven't talked to them in ages, and then when you reconnect, it's like no time has even passed.
Yes, and those are the friends who have accepted you for who you are.
Yeah.
There is no expectation of filling something. Like, they've got your back no matter
Yeah.
what. They are there to stand up for no matter what,
Yeah.
right? And that friendship happened to me after a certain age.
Yeah.
When I got over my own insecurities and
Yeah.
my own, I had this notion that I was not good at making friends, that I am weird, that people don't gravitate towards me. And I'm for all the talk I do, and I say this, and I have a few friends who are going to say, no, you're not. I'm actually a very shy introvert. If you leave me, I can go without talking to anybody for a very long time and feel very happy about it and I think that's a defense mechanism in myself.
Oh, yeah. Just from like childhood and things like that.
Just like a childhood
Yeah.
and think. I recognize it now.
Yeah.
I wish I was able to recognize it then.
But like, you can't blame yourself. You're a kid.
I don't
And I don't think there's like
myself.
necessarily the vocabulary to understand that and know that's where it came from.
I don't blame myself at all, but I am quite... so if you see me in a party, or if you see me, and if you feel like, oh my God, she's very standoffish. I'm not standoffish. I just am it takes a while for me to warm up. And I am very, very, very conscious and particular about who I let into my life.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like your experience is a bit similar to Reya's experience of like struggling to develop friendships, especially strong female ones in high school. And like considering that you still went to an all-girls school and like you were in this environment of doing extracurriculars where it was like a completely like an all-girls extracurricular. Why do you think like that impact? Why do you think you still struggled to make friends? And what are the aspects that you like now look back on that you're like, those were some of the factors that I was like,
So let me think. So I think for me, especially like year 7, year 8, I had a pretty close group of friends because I knew them from primary school. And it was kind of like we were the people from primary school who no one, like, I don't know how to describe it. So all the people from our primary school that went, we were the group that like were kind of left out of the major groups. I don't know how to describe it, but we kind of found each other and we're in the same class. And in year 7, year 8, you're all in the same class and, you know, all of that stuff. And then the minute you stop being in the same class, you start realizing, oh, I have my own interests and, oh, we don't have to sit with each other all the time. And then I think your personalities just change. And then I kind of looked in myself and I went, wow, I really don't actually want to sit with these people anymore. And it had nothing to do, I guess, with them. It was more like an internal thing. And I kind of took that step away and said, wow, is this really the group that I want to be hanging out with? And then, again, year 9, year 10, I found another group. And then it was like a very similar thing. I guess my interests, my values were just a bit different. I think in that stage, my culture may have played a role, my own personality. Because I think year 7, year 8, I felt like, because I was also one of the younger people in my grade. I was like, I'm younger. It's really strange. I like Marvel and I like I can sing, but I don't sing well. And I do all this stuff. And what else? What are my other interests? I like Lego and I like Harry Potter and I'm just one big giant nerd. And I think I saw myself in terms of how the media wants women to be boxed up into categories. Either you're a nerd or you're a drama person or you're a popular person. So I think I kept seeing myself in that way. And it took me year 11, year 12 to kind of go, well, why do I care what other people think? Why do I care? I don't think other people are boxing me into a category. I'm boxing myself. And so then I kind of took a step back and went, well, I can because I'm I'm ambiverted and I can talk till the cows come home. So I was like, why don't I just do that? And if you want to hang out with me, you can, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to waste my time and effort trying to please someone else.
But that was something you learned later.
Yeah.
But like in the moment, you're probably like, I'm going to try and fit into the box that they want me to fit into.
Yeah. I was like floating around and I was like, oh, this one singular person doesn't like me. Oh no. And then I was like, by the end of it, I was like, oh, but why do I care why other people like me or don't like me? You know what I'm saying?
But it took a while, right?
It took a
because
long
it was
time.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to take a step back. You went from having a great group of friends in a particular stage in your life to feeling like you were an outsider completely in one. As you settled, then completely you went back into having a group.
It was definitely a cycle,
group, and then you felt like you had some incidences where there were it was quite complicated, and I'm going to use the word bullying. There was a lot of bullying happening,
a lot of like putting people down and
this, I think, when we talk about this myth about how girls can be mean to each other, right?
It was not like a catty mean. It was like a genuine, I don't want you here mean. Like it was very like very humiliating, because I was like, I know how you feel about me, but I was too proud to go, I'm gonna move and I'm gonna leave, because in my head I was the main character and I was like, no, I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna make you all do whatever I want. And then I realized, like, lol, you're your own person, you can do whatever the hell you want. So I kind of went through those phases.
And you also, there was a time where you also were looking up to your sister.
Oh yeah.
And because she was the one who gave the template that this is all possible, and I was not able to provide any guidance because I was, first of all, I didn't have a great experience, so I didn't know how to make friendships myself. I do know how to make friendships, but it
was like a lesson from experience that you struggled with.
I think it's the same thing where you feel like you don't belong, but it may not be things that people do. It's just that cloud of it's like an internal thing. You just feel like, I don't want to be here, then they don't want me here. And some days it was fine, and then other days it was like, I can't go to school, I don't want to sit with these people. And sometimes it was nothing to do with them, it was more like a me thing, you know? And then it was kind of always seeing it as the grass is always greener. If I sit with this group, I think I'll be better. And then I go and then I'm like, oh, it's the same thing.
And then that impacts your identity, because you think you're supposed to be like that person. And then you're like, wait, why don't they like me? And then I'm struggling, but they're like this, so I don't know how I'm supposed to be. And then you see all these like the epitome and the utopia that is of female friendships in the media and having each other's back, and then you think like, wait a second, why isn't this happening to me, and things like that.
I think that's more on the Western movies, because I grew up thinking women cannot be friends, though I had good friends. I don't know
the
if
media
it
made
it seem like woman is your woman.
Like in Indian cinema,
it would always be a woman, not just in cinema, it's just a general out there that, again, first of all, I was not allowed to have a friend. Friendships were something you have to focus on study. You have to focus on study. It was not even a matter of asking, can I go out with my friend on a Saturday night? We didn't do that. That was like, what are you roaming around the streets with who? Why? Who is you going? But I could see that those privileges were available for my the other boys in the community. The boys could hang out with whoever they want. I had to bring my friends home, and then I had to I'm not saying that's the general idea of every parent. That was my life experience. My parents, though lovely parents, have beautiful friends of their own. They thought, and to an extent, I think I can understand it as a parent, how important it is to choose your friends. But for girls, going out for a night with girlfriends, what do you want to do? You want to go clubbing? How do you want? Who is going to go? It was not something everybody encouraged or nothing you did. And also there was this guilt. If you and after a stage, you are not supposed to leave your family and go out to have a night out with your girls. What?
Why?
You don't.
You have to focus on your family.
You have to focus on your family. What are you going to do? What? The first time I went for an all-female friendship was well into my 40s.
Like a girls' night out.
A girls' trip out. Well
Which
into my 40s.
reiterates the importance of having a strong foundation of female friendships.
But it also comes to a very cultural factor on who can you be friends with, what
Yes.
type of friends you have. So, and I would like you to talk about because for me, you're like the sample kid. Yeah, the sample kid. And I thought, because you had a great experience of making friends and all that, I thought it was easy
It was
for you.
definitely, touch wood, it was definitely on the better end. I don't like to compare, but if
I
we
think
think
we
about
have to
Reya's
compare, yeah.
experience
Yeah.
of how she struggled to make friends, mine was, I don't think anybody comes out into the world like ready to make friends. I think it's always a bit of a
No, I
stocky.
disagree. I think
Yeah,
there are
same.
some personalities who can actually make friends and who
But I
are
think it's
very
the
popular by how they present
But
themselves.
I think it's the environment that you're put into in the beginning.
Definitely. I think for me, like before I'm gonna butt in anyways, but even though you go to an all girls school, I think the main thing that plays a role then is your culture, because you have this group is from this culture and they're definitely more like well liked or more popular. And then I think the stereotype is, which is very much changing now. If you're brown, if you're South Asian, then you're like that nerdy group and you just have to gravitate towards each other. With
The other South Asian group,
the other South Asian group, which is not true at all. Obviously, I don't know, like
But
that's a
then
big stereotype.
you had a different experience, right? Like I hear what Reya is saying, but you also had, what fascinates me, and I think this fascinates a lot of people, not just as parents, but human beings. Two people can be in the same house. You went to similar situation schools. You both changed schools at the similar time. So the environment was similar. Maybe the duration of how much school change you had was smaller than what Reya did. But it were the same school cycle, the same extracurricular activity. So that's why I call you my sample child, because it's more like I've dipped my toe into this. It went okay for you, so I'm putting the other one as well. Because why? It's easy, it's convenient, and I do that. But you had completely different experiences about it. And I disagree that we all struggle to make friends. I think there are certain personalities which people get.
What I mean is,
attracted
I
to.
think everybody struggles to make friends. I think some people, it's a little harder for some people.
I don't think people struggle to make friends, because I think in this environment, you meet someone once or twice, you call them your friend. I think people struggle to find lasting and
strong lasting female friendships.
and
Yeah,
any
strong,
friendship.
strong lasting
think
female friendships.
Yeah, like someone that that is like in the movies, because it is possible to have, obviously not the same thing, but like you FaceTime and you talk and you chat and that stuff where you feel good about yourself and you feel like, oh, I actually want to be a part of this group. I think that's what people struggle to do, rather than just, because it's very easy. Like people say it's hard to make friends, but on the if you just look at it from a face value, you say, oh, I love your sweater, oh, this, you start chatting, friend, done. But to find someone that your values align and you like them
is quite
as
a
a
little
person
bit harder.
is very hard.
See, that's where I think in my generation, okay, I'm not going to speak for everyone. For me, personally, you're not a friend unless you have been with me for at least a year and a half. Or I wouldn't call, there is for me, boundary-wise, the definition of a friendship varies. You can be a very friendly acquaintance for a very long time without being a friend.
I think this is where my perspective in it is different. I think if you've I think it just all depends on the click and the connection.
Correct.
Because there are some people that I have only met in the span of like 3 months and I would consider them like such a good friend.
Yeah,
True.
Such a good friend. There are people that you've spent like even longer with that you're like, these are like my best friends. And also, I don't think in terms, like, this is just my experience. I think it's like, in the same way, I don't think there's a soulmate. For me, I wouldn't say there's one person who's like my best friend. I think I have many, many best friends.
Yeah, because each friend can represent different parts about you. Like one friend can be someone that's really extroverted, that matches that energy, but other people might be more introverted, and that
brings out the extroverted side in you.
Yeah,
and the
or like
things you like to do.
introverted side in you. And like even if you're someone that is very into like something like Star Wars, or like you have a hobby or interest like that, and you have a friend that likes that, but then you're also interested in reading, and then you have a friend who's interested in reading. Like I think friends don't have to be I suit you like a puzzle piece. It can be form different parts of your personality.
Yeah, but I think my experience in terms of making friends was easier. Like the friendships I have made in high school and now developed at uni are like consistent. And like we've ensured that we all like maintain and stay in touch, and like we still stay in touch to this day because it's like so important, and like we've gone through some certain experiences together which are like so foundational to our identity that you almost can't imagine that other person not being there to support you, which is why like I think having a strong female friendship and foundation is so integral to how you see yourself.
Definitely. For me, I call this I use this analogy when I work with clients, right? There are some friends who are your 3-minute friends, 3-minute acquaintances, 3 minutes. Okay. So you see them, you have this, you meet them, you might meet them a lot of times, but the amount of connection you had can only be like very small, short, 3-minute. Like, they have, you might have gone to an event and like, they made it possible for you to do an intro or something like that, right? Then there are some friends who you would have like a relationship for 3 months, right? Then you have some for 3 years. Those are the friends which we mostly struggle with, the 3-year friendships.
Why?
Because you go to primary school, you have to stay in the same area for 3 years. 3 years looks like a big deal for us, right? As females, 3 years, there's a lot of change which happens in puberty. And that those 3 crucial years, there are some.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time focusing on these 3-year friendships, not understanding. But for me, I tell all the clients who come and all the young people who come to me is that focus your energy on 30-year friendships. If you're not going to be friends with them for the next 3 years, or they are not going to make a difference in your life for 3 years, after your 3 years, sorry. If they are not going to make a difference in your life after 3 years, you should not be spending a long time.
But you don't know that they're not going to.
You will know.
You can tell.
You can tell. At least as women, we have this strong power called intuition, which we are all taught not to rely on. And this, when I used to tell Reya that they are all 3-year friends, that it is okay not to have 3-year friends.
So focus on the friends that you want to
for the
sustain
next
for
30 years.
Yeah.
If they are going to be your friend for 30 years.
Or even if you're no matter what you do, you try and stay in touch and everything. Like you could put that into the category of 30-year friends, even though maybe practically.
So when I say you're not going to be in touch for 30 years, I'm saying,
you feel like that is a
long-lasting relationship where after 30 years, say you've not spoken for 30 years. But when you pick up the call, you could go, I get this feeling where you were in that part of my life where it made a difference to me at that part of my life. And we can pick up from where you are. We all change and we all evolve. They are the people who love you for who you are, not for what you do today and the type of person you are today. You don't have to have a facade. You can tell them really honestly what you feel.
BS.
You can call out their bullshit and say, hey, I know you think you look really cute in this, but
you can be very honest.
But
do you
as
really
the friend,
do you really think he is the right person for you?
Oh my God! If your friends tell you about anything romantic, and they're like your close friends, I feel like this needs to be highlighted, put on a t-shirt, whatever. If
she likes this, highlight it and put on a t-shirt. I don't know, maybe we should start a line of highlight and put on your t-shirt.
What I mean is if your close friends are telling you, and you can tell they're your close friends, you would you would depend on them, not depend on them, but you can depend on them, they're there for you. If they tell you, look, this guy's a little bit dodgy, please take that as advice. Take off the rose-colored glasses.
But wait.
I disagree a bit. What? Because I think you're seeing it from there are different aspects. If the guy is like a walking red flag, or the romantic partner is a walking red flag, and you can go, hey, I don't think this person brings out the best in you. You can bring it up, but if someone told me like, oh, I don't like him, or I don't like this person because
Without a reason.
even
Without
like
a
a friend,
reason, of
even like a
course.
friend,
Yeah.
even if you're like, oh, this
Of
friend
course,
is
I'm
not
not saying without a
great for
reason.
you. No, even with reason. If they're like, you know, I think, you know, you become really annoying when you're with them. It's like, well, then don't hang out with me when I'm with them. Because at the
What?
because at the end of the day, every person that you interact with, every person that you choose to let into your life has a purpose. If your friends are like, oh, I don't think this guy, you should be dating him. You should be like, well, you know, that's for me to come and realize. Especially when it's dating.
What?
Yes.
I think there is a
no.
I think there is a fair line between. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, one second. What is the friendship based on? Okay. When it comes to female friendships, they can be unconditional love, but we should also not neglect that there is also this. Again, that's why I said, is it a myth that we are all jealous? But we are, I think, conditioned and
feel
pitted
jealous, yeah.
to pitted against each other for generations, that there is a tinge
we're
of
going to specify, I feel like, in
No, I
immigrant
think
in every
she
culture.
has such nice hair.
Yeah.
Oh, her dress looks so good on her. Oh, why do I look like this? Oh, I wish I could be that extroverted. Why did I say this word like this? Like those small things you think it's just general anxiety, but a lot of it is that internalized disgust of being a woman.
Of being a woman. So it takes a long time,
To get
a
over that.
strong person and some kind of self-reflection and self-awareness to support another woman unconditionally. I do agree to that. Not only woman, anybody. So when you talk about if your friends say this, it depends on what kind of friends you have as well. And you are the only person who can understand whether or not that friendship, again, is it a friendship which has stood as, you know, that they are coming from a place of good intention,
genuine, caring, yeah.
Yeah. And if that is the case, yes,
That's
you
what I'm
stop
saying.
and you pause and you listen.
Yes, that's what I'm
And
saying.
take
If
a
your
decision for
close
yourself.
friends who have had a foundational element in your identity and upbringing are telling you something like, this man is a little bit strange. I have a feeling. I'm getting a feeling.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe just
Pause
take
and
that,
listen.
Pause and listen. You don't have to
Immediately
go
do something.
call them up and be like, my friends don't like you, so goodbye. But you have to sort of take it with a grain of salt.
Well,
A little bit
I
of a
think-
bigger grain
So
of
that
salt.
could be the same truth for you also, no? That person's girlfriend, but then it also depends on who is saying, how they are
This is what
saying
I
it, how they are
mean. I'm
positioning
not just
positioning
saying
it.
if every
For me personally, it depends. Like, is it in risk? Like, if I'm saying something, I'd be like, oh, that's not a trait that I value. Or you can be like, I would get the ick if my person did this to me. Because sometimes that can frame it in their mind, oh, is what they're doing actually wrong? And then additionally, I'm someone that values my family before my friends. And I've always prefaced this. My family will always come first. So if you said something, Amma said something, even cousins or someone else who I'm very close with,
you would take them more into
said something to me, I'd be like, oh, okay. But at the end of the day, family is who you choose to make it. Family is not always blood. So if those friends become your family, your chosen family, you can view it that way. And I think we need to be more mindful of who we're letting into our life and the power that we give them in our lives. Because for me, if you have the 3-minute friends and you give them all the power to be like, well, you're my family now, but they're not, because they're just those friends that you kind of pass
be
by
fundamental
in life.
in.
So you have to, I think as women,
You have to choose
learning
carefully.
how, there's 2 things that we have to learn, kind of relearn. We have to relearn what we want from ourselves, what we expect out of the relationship, what we expect we want to achieve from this relationship. We want to form a friendship where you can rely on them, you can trust, you can form those bonds, and what you expect the other person to do. Setting those boundaries is really important, I think, in female friendships, because I think
in all friendships, but yes, particularly in female friendships, setting a boundary. But the thing is, which is very tricky for me, at least I'm going to speak from a first generation migrant perspective,
From a
of
married woman?
from a married woman, and this is something I have been guilty of doing long back, but I'm trying to change it, is that we never nurture our female friendships or give it time as much as we give for our family
Once you are married.
once you're married, because having those relationships, it's like
A distract.
it's not even a distraction. It's like a nice to have. It's not a must have.
But I think it's a
I think there was a research which said that women who have close friendships actually have low blood pressure. They have higher immunity. They have the ability to rise up from any challenges or resilience. They live longer. They can manage any situation without going into a nervous breakdown, all because of spending some conscious moments and having a real connection with female friendships. It's called the sisterhood. And finding your own sisterhood, and like anything, like any plant takes nurturing over time, you will need to maintain that relationship. You can't just go, when you have an opportunity to catch up with this for your female friends for a coffee, and you have like you have to take your kids for class, don't feel guilty that, you're not there to take the kid for the class. If that is something you can organize 1 or 2 days for somebody to go. Equally is important for the other to also go and have their own friendships. I'm not just
Outside
saying
of the relationship.
I'm not just saying for women, even men, friendships in men should also be encouraged. But women, we are notorious because for some reason men can do it very easily without the guilt, without the shame, without having to explain.
But you feel like when you first got married, it was like it's either this or that.
Oh, there was a lot of overcompensation. There was no expectation for me to overcompensate, but because I have been told that
Conditioned.
these are all things you don't do, you're not a good mother. What kind of mother are you if you don't take your own kids to class? Or what kind of mother are you if you are not the one who's cooking and somebody else is cooking?
Yeah.
What kind of mother are you? You're leaving your kids for 5 days and going to what? Going somewhere, and you won't be contactable? Who's babysitting your kids? When it comes to parenting, the other parent is not a babysitter. You are parents. You can equally change that equation. It's how we talk about it, how we prioritize it. And a lot of women are struggling silently with a lot of mental health problems. And it can be easily, I'm not saying don't go to a counselor and that's not what I'm saying. That like how you would have habits, everyday habits, make it a very conscious effort to nurture connections
With strong female friendships.
with strong female friendships.
And take time out of your schedule to
consciously plan to do something. Like with some of my friends, we're like, okay, even though we all are like different unis or at different schools, whatever, we have our own lives doing our own thing. Once a month, we're gonna plan something that we do. Whether that thing is we're all gonna watch a movie from our homes on like a teleparty. When you're in that space, you're allowed to be that version of yourself that feels free to be that version of yourself. Because as much as self-care is drinking tea and reading a book and taking a
self-care
walk
is also
outside,
nourishing yourself with surrounded
Self-care
by a strong female
includes-
friendship.
nurturing your identity as well. And if those people are key to your identity, well, then that's what is needed.
There is also a lot of stereotypes when it comes to what kind of activities you
Oh,
can
yeah.
do as a female friendship.
Let's get a brunch. And it's not always have to be brunch. That's like one example. But I feel like when they're like, we're going for a girl hang can be
Rock
a range
climbing.
room and can be whatever you make it. Don't feel that you have to fit into, we need to get food and we need to eat and we need to talk like this. You can do whatever you want. I think there's so much the sisterhood, which I'm not a big fan of that word because I think it's more a community than a sisterhood, because you can have a sister, but my sister is not my friend. My sister is my sister and my friend is my friend. I think setting those boundaries and not having a sisterhood is also important. Having a community of people is more important.
I agree to that word where I am not like some people, like again, I have a problem with this. When it comes to friendships and when it comes to relationships, right? I think there is also this popular myth that your family cannot have, like in your family, especially in a South Asian culture, we are all pitted against each other. A sister-in-law will never be a sister-in-law's best friend. A mother-in-law can never be a mother-in-law's best friend. And, people within the thing will be very evil and you can't trust anybody within your family. That's actually not true for a lot of people. And you can have a baseline of friendships
Within the family.
that goes beyond whether or not you're related to them or not. You may have gotten introduced to them because of, through marriage or whatever it is, but it is possible to have a friendly relationship with a family member and actually call them your friend, right? However, we can also not immediately assume that our mothers can be our friends. It's
What?
good enough. Like, I can't be your best friend.
No.
That's a bit strange.
That's a bit strange. Sisters don't.
But I think other people sometimes would consider their
Like
moms
your
their
mom,
best
like
friend.
I think at one point I was like, oh, my mom is my best friend.
That's a little sad though. I think you
Very
should
sad.
have. It's a kind
Like
of
it's
sad.
like my mom is my best friend. That's it. But then it's also like, well, your mom only knows you as a parent. Your mom will
Correct.
never see you as if you're someone that likes to hang out with your friend and
How
be
you-
silly and be that raw self that you want to be. Your mom's always going to see you as, oh, my tiny child, my baby, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
It's
parenting
not doesn't
lens
always
comes
have to
into
be
it.
like that. And I think even like your cousins, like I know we're speaking, our cousins are like our closest friends. That we're very close with them, and we call them cousins, but that they are more like
Sisters.
Sisters. But that's what I mean. A sister is someone that I think I wouldn't call Rithi my best friend.
Sad.
Oh, it's okay if you're
Yeah.
not her best friend. And I don't like this word best friend.
I don't like best friend either. She's not, I would say she's my sister. She lives with me. She knows me, again, as my sister. She doesn't know me as
A friend, how
a
you
friend.
are with
She
your
knows
friends.
me as the introverted and extroverted parts when
Which
I'm
is
mad
one
and
part
when
of
I'm
you.
angry. But she doesn't know me when I'm at uni. She doesn't know me when I'm at work. So I don't think it's right to be like my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, my cousins are my best friends. You can say you're very close with them or you're family oriented, but to have one group of family support and one group of friend support is important because, like I said, it's like a puzzle piece and it's kind of becomes your identity becomes incomplete without one or the other.
How many number of friends do you think is a good amount of friends?
I don't think it's about quantity. It's always quality. I can have 100 friends.
Okay, so if I
but-
say, I only have one friend, that's it.
But that's
if that
what I
works
mean.
for you, then
That's fine if it works for
Wouldn't
you.
that be a little bit burdensome? Like you're the only friend you have.
It is a bit sad because, like I said, it's about that aspect.
But I think it
of
depends
your
on
personal-
people. I think there are some people in the world who have one genuine best good friend.
And then have acquaintances like, oh, my work friend, but not really like.
It was almost like
yeah.
an extension of themselves.
Yeah.
But
But I know that I agree it's the quality of a quantity.
I definitely agree.
You
it's
can
a
have
quality.
50
bad friends.
I think school.
No, I'm saying you can have 50 bad friends and like 3 amazing best friends. Or it could even be a situation where you have 50 genuinely good friends, people.
Yeah.
There's no, you
I
can't
think
just give
at
a number.
school as well, it's a big thing. It's like, especially all girls school. I always felt this. It's like, by the end of it, you kind of like, I need to have friends because I need to be like, I can't be alone. But like, how many of those people do you think actually want to be your friend? Or how many people are being your friend because you're there?
Okay.
You know?
I'm going to say this because it's controversial. And again, it's a friendship. It's about friendship. And this is something I told. So it's not like it's not like I'm just sharing it for the sake of sharing it. And I'm going to hope that Reya is okay with it. There was a time where I encouraged Reya to know herself more and not have any friends who she felt was bad. And this is something I tell them. It's better to save your mental health if that means for a period of time you're not having any friendships. That's
just
okay.
because of the quality of the friendships
The
around
quality of the friendships around
you.
you.
That's also true.
And it is very important to build friendships with your own self to understand so that then you can know what kind of friend you need to attract. And friendships are attractions actually, energies, right? What kind of energy you need to come into your circle. And when you're ready and you know yourself,
It will
that
come.
will come. You will attract somebody who you might have passed on for so many
I
days
think it's
in
a
the same
duality
corridor.
of things. I think it's a duality of working on yourself to become the best
But
person
it's
you
not
can
necessarily,
be.
I need to love myself to have someone.
No, I think it's doing those starting steps and working on yourself to try and understand who you are, what your likes and interests are, while also actively seeking out female friendships and doing sort of like okay, well, in this moment in my life, I feel like these people could be my friends, then trying the 3 minute, 3 day, 3-week rule, then seeing how far that develops
Or
as you grow.
Yeah, and
depending
being like,
on who you hang
this
out with.
person, I've been feeling really lost in my culture, and
This
having
person helped
this
me
person
broaden.
who's from the same culture helps me realize that I don't have to be ashamed of this.
Exactly.
Or this person actually made me realize, I can be introverted. I don't have to be, being shy is not a bad quality. I can be soft-spoken and it's not the worst thing in the world.
Exactly.
But also, it is very important to realize if you're having toxic female
Oh, yes.
friendships, which is a topic in itself. And how would you know if it's a toxic female friendship?
You just know.
You know, listen to your gut. But main signs are they are talking behind your back. They are pulling you down. They are constantly, they seem like they are supporting you. And then you walk away wondering, was she actually supporting me or was she bringing me down?
I think the main thing is you feel like you can't breathe without them, which is the complete opposite of what friends are supposed to be like. The people that stand beside you. You shouldn't have to be like, oh my God, if they're not there, then I have no one. You should be like, oh, I'm confident enough in myself to know that if they're not there, it's okay. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. If you leave each meeting being like, that was so great, and then you reflect and you go, but why did I do this? And why did this happen to me? It becomes, I
that
think,
didn't
more
feel
toxic.
right. Or you feel like, I have to tell
Mm.
her this. Oh my God, if I don't tell her,
I
she's
think
going to be so mad at me.
Gossiping is not bad, but it becomes bad when you're actively trying to find
Ways to put someone down.
Yeah, if you're like, oh my God, did you see the way she did this was so funny, or the way this happened, it's so strange, like, I can't believe this is happening. Gossiping, I love to gossip. That's like the biggest, like, everyone who knows me knows that. I'm a big gossip. But when you're actively gossiping because you just want the drama.
I have one rule about gossip. You should not talk about somebody
Unless
when
you
they
can
are
say it
not
to
there.
their face.
Unless you can say it to their face. If you
That's
are
true.
woman enough that you will say the same thing if they are there and they are a fly on the wall. Say, for example, we all take a lot of comfort in the secrecy and privacy of who we are sharing what. If you don't have the spine to talk in front of them, and that's not the way you will come across
Or
to
if you're
them,
scared that if they find out they're going to be angry,
then
don't
that
talk
is
about it.
gossip. That is gossip for
That's
me.
not gossip. I don't think that's gossip. That's toxic gossip. If gossip is like, oh, she, like, for example, if it's about
Gossip is a
Rithi,
way to
oh my God,
unwind
Rithi's,
and not have it on
yeah.
your mind.
Yeah.
Or gossip for me is like narrating every single
story,
thing which
yeah.
happened, but I normally put my spin to it and
Understand,
had a little comedy. But
I think we made a lot of big insights in this episode today.
I
and
really
I think
enjoyed it.
To close,
Mm-hmm.
what are some reflections we can take away?
One of the major reflections I want to bring it back to
Summarize it in one sentence.
one sentence is that having female friendships is really important for your mental health. So do it
Yeah.
for the sake of your mental health and consciously develop relationships that is going to nurture you.
Yes.
And make it a point to do something once every fortnight minimum
Mm.
to spend that time with your
And
friends.
nourish your identity.
And nourish yourself.
Yeah.
And be yourself.
Yeah.
And strictly without your family.
I think for me, it's important to know that you set the boundaries in your life and you are responsible, not for what happens to you, you are responsible for what you choose to do. Every day we make decisions, and when you choose to let someone you know who's going to hurt you into your life, you're making a decision that's going to ultimately harm you. So I think the most important thing is just understand what you need from your friendships and understand that you choose to let whatever energy you want into your life.
Yeah. And I think my takeaway is develop friendships where you can truly, truly be yourself. Where you can talk about absolutely anything and there'll be no judgment.
And that somebody you would like to be friends with for at least 30 years. I think you should at least have 1 or 2 30-year friendships.
Yes. Wow. We
think
hope
that's
you
it for
guys
me.
enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Reya, for joining us on this podcast. You guys can check out the podcast on Spotify, which you might be listening to, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube if you're watching it. And you can check out the first season and watch Reya's introduction where we talked about sibling dynamics. But that's it for now. We hope you guys stay tuned for the upcoming episodes, and please share this with your friends, family, and anyone else you know who may benefit from listening, and we hope that this podcast and our talks help have conversations about things that are not often spoken about.
I think we know. I'm a little confident that we have produced something which is going to be valuable for at least a lot of people. So I hope you enjoyed the energy. How great are the girls? And I'm having a proud mama moment. So I'm just going to say it. Thank you, girls, for coming in. And
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you.
We were just
Artworks.
I was talking a lot this time, but so we just managed to do
Look at that.
a koala bird about friendships.
A
and
koala
those-
bird?
What's
No,
a
it's not a
koala
koala bird. What is this?
kookaburra.
Kookaburra, sorry.
Koala bird.
And we made a
A
platypus
platypus.
Aww.
collective.
I did more journey of it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for listening. And you know what to do. You support us and share it with all your friends.
Bye.
Bye.